He said, pray as you see me pray. Utter these words that you hear me say. Based on the Sunnah, worship Him, just follow Him.
Assalamu alaikum. New class coming to you every Monday and Wednesdays, taught by Ustad Laila Nasheeba, the fiqh of prayer. Every Monday and Wednesday, 9:30 p.m. Eastern. Inshallah, we'll see you there. Streaming on all major platforms. Channel SunnahFollowers.
Let me make it a little larger and take this down. Tonight, we're going to speak about the things that can be done during the prayer without invalidating them. And we're going to start off with the first issue that many of you have asked about. What about crying? Say, for example, you're reading the Quran and you become you're reciting the Quran, you're reciting the Fatiha, let's say, and you're pondering the meaning of it to the point where you begin to cry. Or say, for example, you bend down to prostrate and your back hurts, so you groan or you moan. Well, crying, moaning, groaning, regardless as to whether you did it out of fear of Allah or out of pain or anxiety or whatever, it is permissible. That means it does not break your prayer. Because you are crying, you break down and cry like this lady's doing here. Or you moan and say, ouch, because you accidentally, you go bow and, ooh. That does not break your prayer. Where's the dalil? Again, I always use PowerPoint when I teach. And I want you young brothers to pay attention to my PowerPoint instead of watching me because you think I am your peer. I am not 20 years old, alhamdulillah. I am not 30 years old, alhamdulillah. I am not 40 years old, alhamdulillah. I am not 50 years old, alhamdulillah. I am not even 60 years old. So get your eyes off of me, because I am not your equal, and put your eyes on the PowerPoint so you can read the evidence and see that I am not speaking without knowledge. Allah says in the interpretation of the meaning, when the revelations of the merciful were recited to them, they fell prostrating and adoring. They fell prostrating and adoring. If you read this verse in the Fusha, which is the original Arabic that most Muslims don't speak today, not even the Arabs. The word that we used in English here for adoring means tears, moans, move through compassion and feelings. Does everybody understand that? So this verse is a general verse of the Quran, and it includes even if a person is praying. And if that's not enough, I want you guys to pay attention to these hadiths. The first hadith, one of the companions said, I saw the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam praying, and his chest was buzzing like the buzz of a pot that is cooking due to his crying. And here's the source. Since a lot of you brothers who call yourselves students of knowledge don't know what a hadith is, don't know what Fusha is, and don't know what a source is, I put the source in italics. And these hadiths, all of them that I am teaching you today, are all authentic. And there is no, I repeat, there is no, I repeat, there is no true, that's the key word, true scholar of Islam who will refute the authenticity of any of these hadiths. Okay? More dalil. Ali, may Allah be pleased with him, tells us there were no horsemen among us at the battle of Badr except El-Miqdad ibn El-Aswad. And I saw that not one of us was standing except the Prophet Muhammad, who was praying under a tree and crying until Fajr. Why was he crying? Because most of his companions, the best of the best, had been slaughtered, had been martyred during that battle. Okay, this hadith is also authentic. The source is in italics. We also have this authentic hadith that proves that crying does not break your prayer or invalidate your prayer. Aisha radiallahu anha tells us the incident that occurred during the illness of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. She said the Prophet order Abu Bakr to lead the people in prayer. And she responded, she said, "O Prophet of Allah, Abu Bakr, my father, is a very soft-hearted man." She said, whenever he reads the Quran, he can't control his tears. If he recites the Quran, he cries. And she later tells us that she said that because she hated that the people would blame her father for being the first to take the place of the Prophet. But the Prophet told her, forget that. Go and tell Abu Bakr to lead the people in prayer. You women are just like the women of the time of Yusuf, alayhi salam. Okay? So the fact that Abu Bakr used to pray and cry, that shows that crying or moaning or groaning during the prayer does not invalidate your salat. Okay, and again, the sources are in italics. All right, we also have the hadith about Umar, may Allah be pleased with him. Umar prayed the Fajr prayer, and he was reciting Surah Yusuf. And when he got to the words, I expose my anxiety and anguish only to Allah, he began to raise his voice and cry. And again, this hadith is authentic too. Its source is Bukhari. And Umar's raising his voice, this refutes those who say that crying invalidates the prayer if it causes a sound to come from your mouth. Why am I saying this? There are some Sufi groups out there, it's always the Sufis, that say that if you cry and a sound, you make a sound when you cry, your prayer is broken. But if you just do a tear like this lady is doing, it's not broken. Well, Umar crying and making a sound. And also the first hadith of the Prophet crying and making a sound is the proof that what they're saying is not correct. All right, so we have to be careful, guys, when it comes to these hadiths. You cannot pick up a hadith book and start reading it and think you now are a student of knowledge. You have to learn the meaning of the hadiths from the true people, the true scholars, okay, who can break it down to you, the meaning. First of all, the scholars have to know the Fusha. They have to be able to know the original Arabic, because a lot of these hadiths do not translate into English correctly. Secondly, they have to know the English language. Thirdly, they have to know the history of Islam. Okay? And that's a science. All of that is the science of hadith, which is similar to the science of the Quran. So that's why we learn from the true scholars. We don't learn from any Tom, Dick, Jane, and Harry that because they memorized how to sing the Quran, they're now students of knowledge. That don't mean nothing. No, it ain't nah. To be a real student of knowledge, it goes deeper than that. All right. Okay, so I hope that answers the question. If you cry, if you make a sound out your mouth, you moan, you groan, you say ouch, that does not break your prayer, nor does it invalidate your salat, your wudu, or anything else. Now, another question that many of you ask me about is moving around, turning around during the prayer. What am I talking about here? Well, look at this hadith. Ibn Abbas, may Allah be pleased with him, tells us that the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam would turn to his right and he would turn to his left. He would not turn his head to see behind him, though. Okay? And there's the source. Also, Abu Dawood records that when the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam prayed, he looked towards a valley because he had sent some horsemen to guard it. So he was making prayer, but he looked out toward the valley just to make sure that no one was coming at them while they were praying. Also, Ibn Sirin, he says, I saw Anas ibn Malik lift his eyes to look up at something while he was praying. So what's the purpose of all these hadiths? Moving or moving your eyes around does not break your prayer, nor does it invalidate your salah. If I happen to look up to see if my granddaughter is getting ready to fall, that's not going to invalidate my prayer. Or if I'm making salat and I hear a noise and I turn my head to the right to see if my granddaughter's in trouble, or I turn my head to the left to see if my granddaughter's in trouble, that does not break my prayer. Does everybody understand that? These hadiths are clear. Remember, like I told you guys yesterday, whenever another Muslim tells you that something is haram, or you cannot do something, they have to bring clear evidence to prove it. Otherwise, they're speaking about this religion without knowledge, and you don't listen to them. You just do like I'm doing. Block them and keep it moving. Ignore them, keep it moving. Tell them off, which is what I did earlier today, and then just block all their accounts and keep it moving. The Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, do not argue with an intelligent person, because if you argue with an intelligent person, you're going to make that person hate you. And do not argue with an ignorant person, because if you argue with an ignorant person, that person may hurt you. You don't want to be hurt by these ignorant Muslims today. Remember, this is one of the signs of the last hour. You know, we will be killing each other, destroying each other, slandering each other. So don't engage these people and don't indulge them. Block them on your social media platforms. You post up a video, a lecture from one of the people here on this website where we're explaining this deen to you, and you got a bunch of nincompoops who call themselves people of knowledge who come and try to troll you. Don't engage, just block and keep it moving. Let Allah deal with them. Remember, there is no screen between the supplication of a person who's being oppressed and Allah. So you make your supplication against these idiots and let Allah take care of them. That's what I do. All right. So take a screenshot of these hadiths. Turning around during the prayer or looking up does not break your prayer or invalidate it. Now, even though it doesn't invalidate your prayer, it's still something that is disliked, guys. Remember, it's all about trying to keep your concentration on a law. But sometimes you have to look up. You got babies running around and you hear a noise, you got to look up, okay? Because you're supposed to be protecting your kids. But what about in a case where there is no need? Some people turn and look at things when they don't have a reason to. Well, listen to what the prophet said about that when he was asked about it by his wife Aisha. She said, I asked the prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam about turning in the prayer. And he said, if a person turns around and looks in his prayer, this is from the shaitan. And this is a portion of your prayer that the shaitan steals from you. Remember, guys, every time we make salat, Allah will reward us anywhere up to 700 times for that one prayer. But for any mistake we make or the break of the focus, Allah may deduct from that prayer too. So if I look up because I hear my granddaughter cry, that's different. That's a need. But if I'm just looking around just because I have bad focus, Allah may take away some points from my prayer. So that's why it's disliked. And that's why the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, "O people, be careful about turning around during the prayer. For the one who does it," he said, if you must do it in the voluntary prayers, but try not to do it in the obligatory prayers, because it's going to take away from your salat, the reward you get for that salat. And another hadith, the Prophet said, be careful turning during the prayer, because turning during the prayer can be disastrous. If you turn during the voluntary prayers, it's okay, but not during the obligatory prayer. Again, all these hadiths are authentic and the sources are there. We also have a hadith where the Prophet said Allah gave Yahya, the son of Zachariah, 5 commands that he was obligated to obey and was ordered to give to the tribe of Israel to obey. And one of those commands was, Allah commands you to pray. And when you pray, do not turn during the prayer, because Allah looks to the face of his servant as long as his servant does not move around. So try not to turn your face. Try to keep your eyes focused on the spot on the ground where your forehead will hit. Because as long as we remained in that position, facing the Qibla like that, Allah will look at us. He will look at our face. Remember, prayer is a meeting between you and Allah. Okay? And all of these hadiths are authentic. And I want you guys to remember, this is a big point I'm getting ready to make right here. We have this hadith here from Abu Dar. He said that the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, Allah faces the person while the person is in the prayer, and he will keep facing that person as long as that person doesn't turn away. If the person turns away, then Allah turns away from him. Now, if a person turns the upper body away from the direction of the Qibla, then the prayer is invalid. Y'all get that? The face, we can do this. Look right. Remember all the hadiths I went over so far. Let me make my screen larger so y'all can see. All the hadiths that I went over so far. The Prophet turned his head to the right, his head to the left. He might have looked up, looked out like this with his head to see what's going on in the valley and the horizon. Look down to see a kid. Look down to see something. But he never did this. Y'all see what I'm doing? He never turned his upper body away from the direction of the Qibla. Remember, one of the conditions of the prayer is, remember the pillars of the prayer? One of the pillars of the prayer is we must face the direction of the Qibla, unless we don't know which direction it is. But if we know the direction of the Qibla, we must face the direction of the Qibla. If I turn my upper body away from it, that does invalidate my prayer. Is that clear to everyone? The head is okay, but the whole body like this, no, I've broken my prayer now because I've turned away from the direction of the Qibla. This is a big point. I want you brothers to take a screenshot of it. There's my dalil for that. I don't want to see no smart aleck answers on my Instagram page from you so-called students of knowledge who probably can't even spell the word knowledge. N-O instead of K-N. Okay? All right, take a screenshot. The head, but not the torso. Okay. All right, let's look at the next section. What about this? You're making salat and you see a spider, or you see a bee, or a cockroach, or a mouse, or a snake. You see a pest coming at you. And you kill it, because if you don't kill that spider gonna bite you. If you don't kill that cockroach, he gonna come up in your clothes and lay eggs. If you don't kill that ant, he gonna get on you and bite you. Well, if the killing only requires a small movement, then there's no harm in that. Where's my dalil? Before you brothers hit me up. Abu Hurairah, may Allah be pleased with him, said that the Prophet said, kill the snake and the scorpion during the prayer. And not just them, any pest. The Prophet said in another hadith, what's the source? Sahih Bukhari. Kill any pesticide. Any pest. A pest is a cockroach, ant, bee, spider, rat, anything that comes in your home, your space, your habitude that can destroy it is a pest, and we can take it out even during the prayer. Because if you don't take that pest out, that pest is going to bite and take you out. It's called self-preservation. So there's nothing wrong with you making salat, and when you go down on the floor, Allahu Akbar, you put your hand down and kill a cockroach, or Allahu Akbar, and you slam down on that spider, or Allahu Akbar, and you hit at a bee coming, you hit it, or a fly coming and you hit it. That does not invalidate your prayer. Anybody that tells you it does, tell them to bring the dalil, because here it is saying that it don't. All right. What about if I have to move due to a necessity and I'm praying? Well, Aisha tells us this beautiful hadith. The Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam was praying in his house. The door was locked, and Aisha had come and she knocked on the door. She didn't know that he was praying, but she came home from wherever she was and she couldn't get in the house. So she knocked on the door. She said the prophet walked over and opened the door for her, and then he returned to his place of prayer. The door, and here's the dalil about the Qibla. The door was facing the direction of the Qibla. So, that's also, shows you that if somebody's knocking at the door and you're making salat, as long as you don't have to break the direction of Qibla, you can answer it. You can stay. Like, say, for example, I'm praying, my door to my house is the direction of the Qibla too. And I can see if I'm praying and say my granddaughter's at the door or my grandsons are at the door knocking, I can just walk straight to the door, open it up, and just walk backwards, still facing the Qibla, Allahu Akbar, and continue my prayer. Y'all see that? As long as you don't break the direction of the Qibla, you can walk to the door. As long as you continue to face that direction, open the door and then walk backwards, still keeping that Qibla direction, Allahu Akbar, and continue. Does everybody understand that? I hope that's clear. Islam is not a hard religion. Allah has made it easy for us to fulfill our obligations to him. It's just that we have to learn correctly. Just like when you sisters ask me about praying in the bathroom. You're at work. It's time to pray. Prayer is an obligation. Can you pray in the bathroom? Yes, you can. If that's the only place that's available for you to pray, where nobody will be able to see you, nobody will be able to accost you, then yes, you can pray. If you couldn't, Allah would say so. If you couldn't, the Prophet would say so. And there is no, I repeat, there is no hadith that says the Prophet said you can't pray in the bathroom, because they didn't have bathrooms back in the Prophet's days. He lived in the 6th century. The Arabs lived in the desert. They didn't have bathrooms. Many of them still don't today. They got hole in the grounds. Okay? That Arabic word does not mean washroom. That Arabic word does not mean bathroom. Our bathrooms are apartments. You can live in my bathroom. Not only can you pray in my bathroom, you can eat in it, sleep in it. I can lock you up as a prisoner in it, and you'd have a nice life. We live the life of Riley today in 2025. We don't live in a trench with defecation and urination coming out of it. And even the toilets in our homes, many of them are in water closets, separate from the rest of the bathroom. And even those of us who don't have water closets, our toilets flush. Ain't no feces in there and ain't no urine in there. We have to get educated. In order to be a student of knowledge, you have to have knowledge. And most of us don't have knowledge of the difference between a bathroom and a washroom and an outhouse and a trench of urine and feces. But we call ourselves students of knowledge. And we think that our 25-year-old behinds can fight with a 60-something-year-old woman who has been educated in this deen from real scholars of the ulama who ain't even living today, and they'll never be replaced properly. Get a life, brothers. You got the wrong one here. Yeah, I'm old school. Yeah, so again, guys, as long as you don't break the direction of the Qibla, because that's one of the conditions or the pillars of the prayer. Then if somebody's knocking at the door, you keep that direction, open it, go walk backwards, Allahu Akbar, and continue. And why do you raise your hands? Why do we raise the hands and say Allahu Akbar when we continue? Because that opens the prayer. SubhanAllah. Muslims today, we don't know the basics. It's called Ruwaybida. These are the days of the Ruwaybida, who got a lot to say. They can run their mouth, but they don't even know the basics of this religion. All right. So again, the Prophet did not turn away from the direction of the Qibla, either in opening the door or in returning to his place. And this is also supported by what has been related, that the Prophet would pray, and if anyone knocked on the door, he would open the door, provided the door was in the direction of the Qibla, or on his right, or on his left. But he never, ever turned his back to the Qibla. In regards to taking a lot of steps, all the scholars agree that taking too many steps will invalidate an obligatory prayer. Remember, it didn't take that many steps for the Prophet to walk forward, just like me. If I were going to open the door for my granddaughter, it wouldn't take that many steps. Me to go forward, open door, go back. But now what if I'm upstairs? What if I'm in my brother's house? My brother has a 6-bedroom house, 3 levels. Let's say I'm upstairs on the 2nd level, making salat in my guest room. Somebody knocks at the door. So I'm going to have to walk down that winding staircase he has, and then walk through the grand room, walk through the office to get to the vestibule that leads to the mud room, which leads to the garage, to open it up. That's too many steps. That's too many steps. That's too many steps. I might as well just make the whole prayer over. Focus is gone and everything. But to take a few steps forward and a few steps back, few steps forward, few steps back, that's different. Common sense. Islam is common sense. Allah made it easy for us to fulfill our obligations to him. We just have to learn the things correctly and learn how to walk away from ignorant people who make it hard. All right. And here's the last thing I want to talk about. A lot of you sisters ask about this, holding the child on your neck or in your hands. We have the hadith where the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam was praying, and Umayma, the daughter of Zainab, was on his shoulders like this. When he performed ruku'ah, he would put her down, and when he stood up, he would put her back on his neck. And by the way, she was his stepdaughter. No, that's another hadith. This was Umayma, his granddaughter. Okay. So this happens a lot. A lot of us we see our kids running around and we just pick them up. Can I just hold her in my arms? Yes. And keep praying. And then when I go down the floor, put her down, then pick her back up. Or you can put it on or her on your neck or however. So there's nothing wrong with that. And a lot of us women do that. A lot of us men too. And also, just to share some history with y'all. And one of the reasons, too, as to why the prophet would carry Umayma in the prayer was to be an example or a role model for the Arabs. Because remember, the Arabs considered daughters, having a daughter and carrying a daughter around, as something bad. Women were treated like less than cattle before Islam. So the prophet had to teach the Muslims how to be kind and gentle to the female species. So to show that, that's why he would make sure that the people could see him holding Umayma in his arms or on his neck. Okay? What would the Prophet Muhammad say if he were living today and saw how you men, you brothers who are in your 20s and 30s, and you call yourselves students of knowledge, how you call your Muslim women who are old enough to be your grandmother kafirs, because they're teaching something that you didn't know, as if you supposed to know more than me when I've lived longer than you. See how we go back. Remember, one of the signs of the last hour is all the rights that Allah gave to women will be stripped away bit by bit, to the point where women will be walking around the Kaaba naked again. You brothers trying to take away the respect that Allah issued for us, for you to have for us women in this religion. Okay? Also, the prophet was seen carrying his grandsons, Hassan or Hussein. He would put them down and make the takbir. And during the prayer, he would do a long prostration. And then when he stood up, he'd have Hassan or Hussein, whichever one it was, on his neck. Okay? So again, this religion is not hard. You know, it's very easy. Why is it that a lot of Muslims don't want to perform their prayers? Why is it that a lot of Muslims hate to pray? Because you crazy brothers out there make it hard for them, telling them garbage, taking the hadiths out of context, pretending to be scholars when you can't even spell the word. You need to fear Allah and watch your mouths, you young brothers of today who call yourselves part of the dawah scene. You ain't part of nothing but trouble. And you looking for a celebrity status, you will have it. You will have your celebrity status in the hellfire. That's what's going to happen to you.